it's Estrella, and today I want to talk about Martian exploration. Unless you've been living under a rock, you may have heard that NASA just completed a successful mission to land Perseverance on the Martian surface. Now, this is very exciting for many reasons, because it was a successful mission. That means that future missions could be given a green light and get more funding for NASA in general. So every success is just another step towards humans making our way through our solar system and then expanding out to the greater universe. So when I was watching the landing of Perseverance on Mars, I got to thinking I didn't know much about Martian exploration by humans. So I wanted to do a little bit of digging and kind of learn the history behind all that. 1960 was the first year humans started sending spacecraft to Mars, and it started with the Russians, and then the USSR, and then NASA followed behind in 1964. They were sending various spacecraft during this time, with several failures before NASA had the first successful Martian mission, Mariner 4. Various failures were due to failing to reach Earth's orbit after a Mars pass, not making it off Earth's surface, failed communications, failure of solar panels opening, and all that sort of thing. Also, really to have a good opening to get to Mars is about every 2 years when Mars and Earth come closest to each other. Mariner 4 was able to send back 22 close-up images of the Martian surface and is now in solar orbit. A few more NASA spacecraft made it to Mars and sent back pictures, mostly going into solar orbit afterwards and not orbiting Mars. In 1971, a USSR spacecraft, Mars 2, was supposed to land on the planet, but ended up crashing instead, making it the first human artifact left on Mars. This is also the first USSR spacecraft to send back video, so it was slightly successful, but also they still hadn't had a completely successful mission. The first spacecraft to orbit another planet other than Earth was the NASA's Mariner 9 in the same year. It sent back pictures of the moons of Mars and is actually still orbiting Mars to this day. In 1975, NASA sent 2 Viking missions to Mars. Both of these spacecraft had orbiters and landers and were successful in orbiting and landing on Mars. These missions provided us with panoramic shots of the Martian surface, the first time ever that we were able to kind of view Mars like we were standing on the Martian surface. The orbiters were able to map the planet, and the landers also monitored the weather patterns for the first time. By 1983, both these missions were closed down because of loss of contact. The Viking 1 lander was actually accidentally shut down prematurely, and they tried to get it back online, and to no avail. They basically shut down the operation a couple months later. The Viking missions also revealed that the composition of Mars was almost identical to certain meteorites that were found on Earth, which suggested that some of the meteorites found on Earth were actually originally from Mars and just pieces of Mars that came down. All in all, there were over 20 odd missions that failed trying to get to Mars and send images back. So for all the successes we see today within the space race, there were just as many failures that we were able to learn from. The next successful Mars mission after the Viking missions was USA's Mars Global Surveyor, and it has been mapping the Martian surface since 1998. Then, in 1996, Mars Pathfinder delivered a lander with a 6-wheeled rover named Sojourner. The mission was used to demonstrate the feasibility of a low-cost landing, because the public had seen so many failed missions that cost taxpayers millions of dollars. NASA was really trying to regain the public interest by also showing that it could be done with a low cost, and they were successful in that. There were a few more failed missions. Russia had pretty much stopped their programs by then. And NASA was still going with the 2001 Mars Odyssey, which is the Martian orbiter that, as of 2010, broke the record for the longest-serving spacecraft at Mars. NASA's 2 rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, were sent to the surface of Mars in 2004. Each discovered ample evidence that water once floated on the red planet. Spirit died in a sand dune in March of 2010, while Opportunity continued to work for another decade. Opportunity sadly fell silent, as you probably remember, during the sandstorm in summer of 2018, and NASA declared the mission over in early 2019. Another NASA orbiter, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, launched on August 12th in 2005. It had began orbiting the planet in 2006, and the mission has returned more data than all previous Martian missions combined to send high-resolution data of the red planet features and weather. It still does it to this day. It also was able to relay data from the Martian surface missions back to Earth, which would have been like, Opportunity back in the day. In 2007, NASA launched a stationary lander called Mars Phoenix, which arrived on Mars in 2008 and found water ice beneath the surface. NASA declared Phoenix dead in 2010. Its major findings included finding previously water-soaked areas, detecting methane on the surface, and finding organic compounds. So basically this means there are the basic structures we think could have created life, and we think that Mars used to be a blue planet similar to Earth is today, and that it went through an ice age and froze over. And I'll get into more of that in a little bit. India actually sent up a Mars orbiter mission successfully, and it achieved orbit in 2014 to image the entire planet. Japan plans to return to the Martian system in 2024 when it will launch its Mars Moons Exploration mission to do a sample return mission from Phobos, one of the 2 moons of Mars. And then obviously we have Perseverance, which was actually launched back in July, so it took about 7 months to get to the surface of Mars and land successfully, which means they launched it and landed all during a pandemic, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. The rover of Perseverance looks something similar to this, except that on the bottom of it, it has a little helicopter friend named Ingenuity. It looks kind of like this, so that when in a couple weeks, I think, Perseverance is going to drop off our little friend Ingenuity and then back away from it. It'll be the first flight on another planet. Hopefully, the idea behind Perseverance is it's going to try and find out if there in fact are ancient microbial organisms and bacteria left on Mars, basically trying to figure out dead aliens. So this is really interesting because if in fact there is or was life on Mars, this can impact if and how we interact with the planet as humans. So when we send, or if we were able to send people to the surface, we contaminate ourselves if we were to go. These are all things that we have to consider, and hopefully we'll be able to get answers with Perseverance. So the rover itself, Perseverance, has a drill to collect core samples of Martian rock and soil and then store them in sealed tubes for pickup by a future mission that would ferry them back to Earth for some detailed analysis. It's also testing a lot of new technologies to help pave the way for the future human exploration of Mars. So what is in the future of Martian exploration after Perseverance? Well, like I said, Japan is also looking to send something up into 2024. Elon Musk, as you probably know, is a really big fan of Mars and has been wanting to colonize it for a very long time. He was hoping when he created SpaceX, the original idea was to get a way to send people and start colonize Mars pretty early on, but then he realized that it would be way out of his price range because rockets that were made in America were way too expensive. And so instead of planning to go to Mars initially, he decided to start creating rockets that were reusable and more efficient and cost a lot less. But he still plans on going to Mars eventually. So because Mars only comes close to Earth every 2 years, and last year was the year, in 2022, Elon Musk is planning on sending up more robots and supplies to start creating a habitable space on the Martian surface for future human exploration. He hopes to have people living on Mars full-time by 2050. So if we are able to have humans living on Mars in 2050, that means in less than 100 years, we were able to go from just sending failed missions to having humans living on another planet, which is so wild. So would you be willing to go live on Mars? I don't think I would, mostly because I like Earth a lot, and I think we need to go to the moon first and try and set up a space there. I don't think Mars is a great idea to start with, personally, and I know there's no return ticket back, so I'll be staying here on Earth and hopefully to the moon at some point in the future. So what do you think? Do you think we should be focusing on how to help save our planet and keep it going for the next future generations? Do you think that we should be exploring different planets to move to and expand? Let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to see what you all think. And that's what I'm into this week.